Welcome, everyone, to the Hot Tag Hooligans Wrestling Podcast Show with myself, Aaron, and Tom. And on this episode, hey, you fear the gear. It's the one and only Spencer Slade. How's it going, sir?
Man, it's going great. I'm so happy to be here. I can't wait to talk to both of you.
Well, let's talk about how was your Easter?
My Easter was great. My Easter was pretty much spent doing the same thing that I do every single day, and that's just either working out or watching wrestling.
No big family get-togethers or anything like that?
We had a big family get together. I had the whole family come over, which was awesome. So it was good. It's always good to see your whole family. I think it just makes the time so much better, and you cherish it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things. I always tell people, even around Christmas now, it's not about me. It's about the little ones. As much as, there's still that little bit of a kid still in me. Sometimes it's kind of hard, but you kind of learn to appreciate the moments when you're in it now a little bit more than what you used to, for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you got to soak up every moment of your life. I don't care whether, you're in a wrestling ring or you're out hanging out or you're enjoying your family. You just got to really cherish it and enjoy it because you'll never get that time back.
Well, I want to talk to you about your childhood because, I've done a lot of research on you. And the one thing that I found very interesting is that you are very open. A lot of the guests that we've had on our show make statements such as, I'm glad that, I thought I was going to be a pro football player. I thought I was going to be a pro baseball player, and then wrestling fell onto my lap. But you only played those sports growing up so that way you could be a pro wrestler. And you were an all-American football player, and you did it just basically because of the physicality to get you ready for wrestling.
Exactly. You said it in a nutshell. So I always wanted to be a wrestler since I was 8 years old. I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I kind of used sports was kind of my outlet because as a kid, I would always get picked on because of my hearing loss. So I used sports as a way to make people take me seriously. And I always played sports with a huge chip on my shoulder just from being doubted and just kind of proving people wrong. That's the kind of mentality I come from. So I played all the sports, and I did all that because I knew one day that I was going to get into wrestling, and I just wanted to be the most athletic person I could be. So I didn't really get into sports to physically play the sports. I got into the sports just to play it, and then eventually get into wrestling. Yeah.
And you mentioned your hearing loss, and you're an athlete. For everyone who does not know, part of your gimmick is that you wear the headpiece a la Rick Steiner. And a lot of people thought was because that you are a collegiate wrestler, and actually you were not. It is because of you like the gear, just for one, and the second part is to actually keep your hearing aids in so you can hear things. So talk to me a little bit about that process. You mentioned it. It kind of fueled your fire earlier on in your career, but how tough really was that for you?
Absolutely. So I always tell people all the time, yes, when I wear the headgear, obviously, I wasn't like Kurt Angle, Olympic gold medalist. I've done a little bit of wrestling when I was younger. But normally for me, the headgear was designed to protect my hearing aids. And also it also kind of gave me that more of like a realistic realism vibe because I do a lot of technical wrestling in my style because I know a lot of that stuff. And also too, it kind of separates me from other people. It gives me that different value, meaning not there's not a lot of people in wrestling that wear headgear currently. I think it's just myself and the guy from Impact, Josh Alexander. That's it. I think it's a great way to kind of stand out and get people to recognize you. And for me, it just fits me. For me, it looks good on me. It just feels comfortable. It's not like I'm trying to play a character. I'm just comfortable being me.
So at 8 years old, who was it that drew you into pro wrestling, and what about pro wrestling hit home for you to say, that's something that I want to do?
So actually, I'll tell you, it was the first match that I ever watched. It was WrestleMania 19, Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar. When Brock Lesnar missed a shooting star press and I guess broke his neck or almost broke his neck. That was the first match that I saw, and I told myself from that point on, that's what I want to do with myself. I remember watching those two guys. They both looked like athletes. They both just looked like two badass guys. And they went out and had a believable hard wrestling match. I mean, when I saw that as a kid, I was like, Man, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to be a guy that's built and can wrestle. That's what got me hooked, and I've been hooked ever since that match.
Now you made me feel old because I was actually at that WrestleMania in Seattle.
No
And,
way! Holy crap!
Knowing that you were 8 years old just makes me feel so old now. Thanks a lot.
That had been awesome to be there.
It,
That
it really was. It was my first WrestleMania. Seattle. I used to be a big Seattle SuperSonics basketball fan, so I always loved the city of Seattle. I'm actually in Kentucky, and that's where I live. And so me and a bunch of my guy friends decided, let's just go to WrestleMania. It's in Seattle. Let's just go. And I remember when Brock stood on the top rope, one of my buddies like, what is he doing? Because at that point, Brock had never jumped off the top rope. I said, he's going to do the shooting star press. And I said, but he's too far out. He's not going to make it. And my buddy was like, oh, he'll make it. And he didn't. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it's so sad that that's the thing that stands out about that match the most is something like that. But it is a match that captivated your attention.
Yeah. I remember when Kurt Angle came walking out, he had his hood over his head. He was walking out with his game face. He was just walking to the ring like his life depended on it. That caught me as a kid. I'm like, that's so cool to walk out and see people watching you, cheering for you because they want to see you go into that ring and kick ass. I mean, I told myself from that point on, there's nothing else in this world that I want to do but do that.
Now, as you've gotten into the business, are there things that you didn't anticipate as a fan of wrestling once you get into the business and you see things a lot differently?
Yeah. So I always get asked this question. The biggest thing for me, what I didn't realize so much getting into wrestling was I didn't realize all of the backstage BS and all the politicking and all that kind of stuff. I didn't realize that was a thing here in pro wrestling. I always thought that, you come in like a regular sport. If you're the best at what you do, you don't have to do anything else to get what you want. That was definitely something that it was eye-opening when I started out. Because I knew what I was getting into. I knew the competitiveness. I knew everything about wrestling because I watched it. I just didn't know that kind of stuff, like politicking and that kind of stuff in wrestling existed, to answer your question.
So how do you navigate through that?
Man, that's and I'd be very honest with this stuff. I mean, and I see it all the time. You have and it's pretty common. It's always, if you ever notice, it's always the guys who know that they just aren't good enough to be a star or be at the top. They're the ones that are constantly gonna kiss the ass of the promoter or try to suck up to that promoter or try to keep talking and texting or stuff like that. Whereas I'm an old school guy. I'm all about doing it the right way and letting your in-ring and your abilities and your talents speak for itself. I'm not interested in trying to politic my way to the top. I want to earn that stuff. And I think really the best way is you got to have that tough man-to-man conversation with the promoter and say, hey, look, this is what I want. If you give me this opportunity, I'm going to knock it out of the park and I'm going to steal your damn show, And then if you go out there and say what you're going to do and deliver, then that's how you keep really getting what you want. You got to talk confidently, but you also got to be able to speak it into existence as well.
And you came from a pretty good learning tree up there in Pittsburgh. The same school as Wardlow.
Yep.
MJF's come through there. Facade's come through there. So talk to me a little bit. What made you choose IWC?
So that's kind of where I was living at the time. I was living currently where I live now in Pittsburgh. And funny, so I had always been an IWC fan. Like I said, since I was 8 years old, not only did I watch WWE, I got Japanese tapes. I watched TNA. I went to all the local independent wrestling shows, and they were all IWC. So in like the early mid 2000s, I mean, I saw all the guys, Punk, Styles, Daniels, all Rollins, Corey Graves, all the guys that are on TV now that have come through the Indies, I saw as a kid. And I always knew that whenever I was done playing football, that I was going to start training there because unfortunately, I'm not, Ric Flair's son, or I'm not Dusty Rhodes' son. So I don't have a contract waiting for me when I start. So knew I had to grind in the independents and go that way. So I always knew that, man, IWC is where I'm going to train, and and I train there, and that's kind of what led me to where I'm at right now.
Was Norm Connors still there?
Yeah, he was the old promoter and owner there. There's a new guy now that runs it named Justin Plummer. He's been owning it now for the past couple years now, but that's who was running it back then.
Awesome.
And it's crazy about IWC now is people don't know this, but Chris Hero is actually booking our shows now. He's actually been helping out backstage and helping a lot of us out. And I can't think of a better dude to learn wrestling from Chris Hero. That guy's been everywhere.
Yes.
So it's pretty cool that, we have a guy it's pretty cool that he wants to come back out and help an independent promotion like ours. I mean, that says something.
Now, when you look at training nowadays versus when you first started training, are there things that you look at differently and things you focus on more now than when you first got into it?
Absolutely. So when I first started, it was all about soaking up as much information as I can. All I cared about was getting better at everything. And whereas right now, I actually take more pride in just the little things. Like now, I don't go down to the ring and take unnecessary bumps, or I don't do anything like that unless if it's time for a show, because I want to protect my body. You only have a certain bump card, and I'm trying to get to the big league, so I want to save my body. Now, for me, all I do in my free time is I work on promos. I go down to the ring and just work on cardio and just basic footwork, fundamental stuff like that. Stuff that separates a wrestling superstar from your typical indie guy. If that makes sense.
Now, you mentioned the big leagues, and even though you're only a little over 4 years into your career, you have, got a little piece of that cake a little bit. You've been involved in AEW, wrestled Hangman Page.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that experience, because right now, and I know for AEW Dark, for a lot of talent that we've had on the show, it's a blessing and a curse in a way. They feel like that they love the exposure that it gave them, but they wish they could have showed a little bit more. They wouldn't give enough time. So how was your experience?
So I'm like I said, I'm going to be brutally honest about it. So actually, on this coming May is actually going to be my 3rd year anniversary of wrestling. Because I made my debut on May 25th of 2019. So I'll be exactly 3 years coming in May. So the AEW thing happened. Like I said, I got that through Britt Baker and Wardlow, who were pretty much they're pretty much going to be, they're the top people there now. That's how I got that opportunity. I was grateful for it. The first time I got to wrestle Hangman Adam Page, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, obviously, time-wise and, what I could do. I was happy that I got to go down there and meet all the people, but I would be lying to you if I felt like I was let down in terms of being able to showcase what I could do. And that's one thing why, and I've kind of made it known to them. They're actually coming to Pittsburgh, I think, on Wednesday. I've already let them know that, hey, if you want me, sign me, but I know my worth. I'm not going to come in and do extra work because I know my worth. I know I should be signed and a star. That's not me being cocky, but I feel every single independent wrestler has to know their worth and has to make that fine line, let them know, it's a business too. I got to get something out of this too. And that's why I'm not a huge fan of what they do on Dark, because if you notice, they do the same thing every time. They bring in the local indie guys. You either get destroyed by security or you have to go out there and make their contracted guys look good. And you can't get a move in. You can't get anything in. Right. Now, if I'm an upcoming indie guy, right, and the AEW has millions of people watching it, right, that's a damn good way to get that exposure. But, why would I come and get that exposure and then basically really be exposed myself by not being able to get anything in, right? So it's a double-edged sword. I don't think it's good. I always tell indie guys, I don't think it's what you think it is. Yeah, they put you on a nice poster. They put your graphic up. But you don't get out really what you should be getting out of it. That's just my opinion.
I know.
I don't know if maybe some other guys have said the same thing, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I love it. I love it because, I mean, you know, they have dark and they have dark elevation. And it's not like they really could not elevate some of these people. Why not use dark elevation and let yourself have a 10-minute match against another independent wrestler and let us decide if we like you or not, and then they can bring you back.
Exactly. That's actually what I thought was going to happen when I first went down. But that didn't happen. And that's another thing too, like with this whole dark thing is like I said, you have to it's all about making their contracted guys good. And I'm at the point where, like, I understand the wrestling business. You know, I'm a real athlete. I came from real sports. So, you know, I'm going to do everything that I can to protect myself and my image. I'm not going to go out there and let myself look like an idiot. I'm sure as heck ain't going to let the sport of wrestling be devalued when I'm in the ring. You're not going to see any goofy stuff with me. And I think part of that is just protecting your image as an indie wrestler. And unfortunately, right now, AEW is just doesn't satisfy what I want. But you know what? If I'm sure there's a couple other indie guys out there that want to go there and do that. That's great on them. But you know, I think what they're trying to sell to indie guys is not what it really appears to be.
So in the short term, do you have like a list of goals, places you want to work, or people you want to work, and things you want to get accomplished?
Absolutely. Obviously, I'm sure you guys know my childhood dreams since I was 8 years old was to be a WWE superstar. And that's my goal this year is to get signed to NXT. I'm hoping I can get a tryout here soon. I know I'm talking to a couple of people there, so I'm hoping we can get something worked out. That would obviously be the first big goal, is to get a tryout. And then from there, I mean, there's a couple guys on the indies that I'd like to wrestle. Me, it's just more having quality matches over quantity. I'd rather have a match against, you know, a name or somebody who's more experienced than me versus having one or two more extra matches against guys that I don't really, you know, I don't think it's going to benefit me. But my big goal, I made it a personal goal this year to get to NXT. So that's my goal.
Now, if you go to NXT, your name's going to probably get changed to something crazy. So are you okay with that? Because right now they're just in this whole big, you know, Vince is in this tunnel vision where everyone's got to change their name. So,
and I always knew that that was going to be a possibility. Like I said, it's weird because I would like to be a name on the indies and make my name big, but at the same time, I'm trying to get to WWE. So I really don't care for my name to get too big because I know it's going to get changed either way. So once again, it all comes down to where you want to go, right? If you want to go to AEW, you can keep your name. You can get as big as you want. If you go to WWE, it doesn't matter what your name is because they're going to change it. You know, I think my style of wrestling, I think, would be best suited in NXT because my style is more of like the WWE style. If you watch AEW, it's kind of all over the place. Whereas me, I try to work identical to Randy Orton. You know, I have my 4 or 5 moves. I like to be slow, methodical. I like my stuff to look good, to look fluid. That's why I think I would best fit in that system.
Awesome. I agree. And that's the thing, you know, and for everyone, we're not beating up AEW. I'm glad AEW is around because it's given a lot of people a lot of opportunities to get some jobs. It's just as a wrestling fan, I want more, especially if you're owning Ring of Honor now too, then give me more. I want to see these talents. I like the rise of GCW right now. I love to see them rise up. I love to see Impact rise back up as well because more options means more talent.
Exactly. And when AEW first started, I was, like I said, I was interested in what was going to be. But I had my personal experiences. Just wasn't what I thought it was. But I think for all wrestling fans, more options is great because there's just more wrestling to watch.
All right. Enough about wrestling. Let's talk about Spencer Slade outside of wrestling. So whenever you get a chance to not wrestle for the weekend or anything and you're not training, what is it something that you like to do?
if it doesn't involve going to the gym or watching wrestling, which is, I'm sure wrestling's my life. That's all I think about. But what I like to do is I like to go hiking. Um, I I I like to go hiking. I kind of like, like cook food, like healthy meals. I'm pretty laid back. Maybe I'll watch a movie here or there, but there's really not much else I enjoy out there because I'm just so focused on trying to get to my wrestling dream that wrestling is just pretty much all I really kind of focus on. I like enjoying my family. I'm just a really simple, laid back guy, but I still have that. I still know where I want to go in my life. So I always make sure that I always dedicate time to studying wrestling or training or doing what I need to do along those lines.
How many times a day do you eat?
About 5 to 6 times a day.
What does that meal consist of?
So I tell people all the time, and people can't believe it. Like they don't understand. Like I tell them I eat so much carbohydrates, and they can't understand that you can still get lean and shredded off eating carbs. So I eat a lot of carbohydrates because you need that for athletes, and also too it helps build muscle. But I keep my fats really, really low. So I'm like a low fat, high protein, high carb guy. That can be anything from like chicken to beef to eggs, egg whites, white rice, oats. I keep it very, very simple. That's the most important thing about any kind of diet or health plan is just keep it simple.
Are you somebody who drinks the egg?
No, 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 no. I gotta cook my eggs. If I drink anything of protein, it's just a shake.
It's always amazed me to watch people just kill back and like an
What?
egg.
And when I was a young kid, when I was like 13, when I started training, when I started lifting weights at 12, I actually I actually drank eggs out of the glass because that's what Hulk Hogan did, right? And even though Hulk Hogan was way, way before me, I still thought as a 12-year-old kid, okay, I gotta drink my eggs after my workout so I can look like Hulk Hogan.
Uh, it would have came right back up in the trash can for me.
Yep, it did. Yeah.
So what does a cheat meal for you look like?
That's a good question. A cheat meal for me is always after a show. I tell myself, you know what, I'm gonna go balls to the walls to the show, and then after the show, I'm gonna reward myself and have something good. Once again, I'm simple with cheat meals. I like anything sugar, whether it's like a chocolate chip cookies. I'll go to the random grocery store and just get like the big pack of 16 pack chocolate chip cookies from the bakery section, and I'll just be eating those after the match. Or it's like a burger and fries, something like that with a milkshake. Those are my two things.
Awesome. Uh yeah, I wish I could be disciplined like a lot of the athletes are. And my son, he's playing football right now for high school, and his main goal before next season is to put on another 25 pounds of muscle. And he eats like a horse. I mean, he really does, but he just can't keep it on. He just shreds it right back off. And it just, so any tips for someone who's
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I was there, especially as a young kid trying to put on weight. It's hard because you have such a high metabolism. Um, if I would try to have him, like I said, protein is going to be his number one goal, high protein. He's got to be in a caloric surplus, meaning he's got to consume more calories than he burns. That's just a simple way to gain weight. If I were you, I would try to get him like a weight gain shake. There's some good companies out there that have clean weight gainer shakes. I would drink. It's simple. Just drink one of those before bed. Eat all your fuel meals, but then drink that big weight gaining shake right before he goes to bed, and you'll watch him put on weight. It's the easiest way to do it.
all right. I can't wait to show him this. I'm gonna start just giving him shakes at night, like drinking.
Yeah, do that shake at night because it's all liquid calories. It's so much easier to get in your system than to eat because nobody wants to eat a 700 calorie meal before they go to bed. It's much easier to drink a shake with that calories before you go to bed. That's how I would do it.
Well, Spencer, before we let you go, tell everyone where they can find you next coming up wrestling, or plug some merchandise, or find you on social media.
Absolutely. So you guys can actually check me out on Twitter at Slade Wrestler. You can check me out on Instagram at Slade Wrestling. I'm on Facebook at Spencer Slade. My YouTube channel is Spencer Slade. You can check out my merchandise on prowrestlingtees.com/fear the gear. And my next upcoming show is actually a huge, huge show we're doing Saturday, April 30th at 7 p.m. at the Ross Draver Ice Garden, IWC. We're doing a joint show with Northeast Wrestling. We've got the Hardy Boys coming in. We've got Dirty Dango, Matt Taven, Eric Redbeard, Flip Gordon, Thunder Rosa. We're doing a big giant show. And I'm actually, myself and my manager, Justin LaBar, we're going to be taking on the Northeast Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion, Dan Maff, for his title. So that is going to be my next match.
So by the time everyone sees Spencer, perhaps after April 30th, he'll be a new champion.
He'll be a new nice gold belt will be right here, or it'll probably be across my abs, or I'll be holding it right up here.
There you go. There you go. Spencer, thanks so much for joining us. I greatly appreciate it. Best of luck to you. Everyone, make sure that you go out and buy yourself some of Spencer's merchandise. Support him everywhere that you go, or boo him wherever you go. I'm sure he loves it either way. He just loves the energy, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Like I said, I appreciate all the support of the fans, great wrestling fans like you. I mean, crap, I could be on this call for another hour talking wrestling because I just love talking. But I appreciate you guys having me on. And most importantly, stay in touch through social media. I always post up on there if you want to see what I'm up to. But once again, thank you guys so much for having me on.
Yeah, everyone else out there, make sure you're doing what you need to do. Stay safe. Hit the subscribe button for myself and Tom. Also head over to our PWT store as well. Buy some merchandise and buy a copy of my book, Independent Road to Wrestler's Journey and Loving Casey Nelson. Me and Tom, we got our 100th episode coming up next. So Spencer was number 99. He almost made number 100. But I can't wait for everyone to figure out who number 100 is. We'll drop that one later in the week as well. For myself and Tom, everyone stay safe. And we'll see y'all later on.